He deleted my report so I would fail. But the backup revealed her true face. The coffee machine in our office had been making a strange clicking sound for 3 days. I noticed it on a Tuesday morning while waiting for my usual hazelnut coffee. Pause. Most people ignored it. I didn't. That was probably why I noticed other things too. The way Melissa suddenly stopped making eye contact whenever I mentioned the quarterly report. The way she closed her laptop a little too quickly whenever I walked past her desk. The way she smiled. Not a friendly smile. A careful one. At the time, none of it seemed important. Our office sat in a small town outside Columbus, the kind of place with maple trees lining every street and white picket fences that looked like they belonged in a movie. My neighbor's golden retriever barked every morning at exactly 7:30, and every evening I drove home past the same grocery store sign that kept reminding me prices were somehow getting higher every week. Life was ordinary. Carpool duty on Wednesdays. A leaky faucet I kept meaning to fix. Grocery bills that made me sigh every time I opened them. And one very important quarterly report. I'd spent 6 weeks building it. Late nights. Weekend revisions. Endless spreadsheets. It wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. Our department director planned to present it to senior leadership, and if everything went well, it could lead to the promotion I'd been working toward for nearly 2 years. "You're putting too much pressure on yourself," my friend Sarah told me one afternoon. "Maybe. You okay?" "Yeah, just tired." "You sure?" I smiled. I said I'm fine. And I was. Mostly. A few days later, I noticed clue number 2. Melissa suddenly became very interested in my project. For months she barely mentioned it. Now she kept asking questions. "What section are you finishing today? Did you already send the final draft? Where are you storing the files?" Small questions. Normal questions. But together they felt different. Like puzzle pieces. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Then I waited. The third clue appeared on a Thursday evening. Most of the office had already left. I was gathering my things when I realized I'd forgotten my phone charger. When I walked back toward my desk, I saw Melissa sitting there. At my computer. For half a second. Then she stood up quickly. "Oh," she said. "I was just looking for you." "Really?" "Yeah." Her smile appeared again. That same careful smile. I smiled back. Nothing more. No confrontation. No accusations. Just observation. The next morning I created an additional backup of every file related to the report. Then another. Cloud storage. External drive. Version history. I didn't tell anyone. I just did it. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe not. The following Monday, everything finally made sense. I arrived early. Opened my laptop. And froze. The report was gone. Every file. Every spreadsheet. Every chart. Deleted. For a few seconds I simply stared at the screen. Anyone watching would have expected panic. Maybe tears. Maybe anger. Instead I took a sip of coffee. Then another. Because the truth was I'd already prepared for this possibility. I opened my backup folder. There it was. Every version. Every file. Safe. Intact. My heart slowed. But something else caught my attention. The activity log. I'd never planned on checking it. But now I did. And there was. A record of every action performed on the project. Every edit. Every deletion. Every login. Time-stamped. Documented. Quietly sitting there. The name attached to the deletion wasn't mine. It was Melissa's. I leaned back in my chair. Not shocked. Not even angry. Just certain. All those little clues suddenly lined up like dominoes. The questions. The laptop. The smiles. The timing. The story had been there all along. I simply hadn't rushed to finish it. Our director received my report that afternoon. Along with the activity records requested by IT after the missing file incident was reported. I never heard exactly what happened afterward. And honestly, I didn't ask. People in small towns talk. Eventually, pieces of the story drifted through the office. Meetings. Investigations. Policy violations. Consequences. I stayed out of it. Because by then my focus had already shifted elsewhere. A month later, senior leadership approved the project. 2 months later I got the promotion. 3 months later, I moved into a brighter office with a window overlooking a row of maple trees that turned gold every autumn. One morning I sat there reviewing next year's plans while sunlight spilled across my desk. Outside, leaves drifted slowly through the air. Inside, everything felt quiet. Not perfect, just peaceful. My faucet still leaked occasionally. Grocery prices were still ridiculous. My carpool schedule still gave me headaches. Life hadn't magically transformed. But something had changed. I trusted myself more. Because I'd learned something important. Not every battle needs a confrontation. Not every betrayal deserves a speech. Sometimes people reveal themselves without any help. Sometimes the strongest move is simply paying attention. Watching. Preparing. Waiting. That evening I drove home through my neighborhood. The white fences glowed in the fading sunlight. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Kids rode bicycles along the sidewalk. Ordinary things. Comforting things. I parked in my driveway and sat there for a moment before going inside. The future no longer felt like something I had to chase. It felt like something I had quietly built. One careful decision at a time. One observation at a time. One backup at a time. And as the sun disappeared beyond the trees, I realized I wasn't thinking about Melissa anymore. She belonged to yesterday. I belonged to tomorrow.